The deafening roar of 1,000 men, their shouts ripping through the air. Steel on steel, a horrifying symphony of destruction. The terrified whinny of war horses, their panic a contagion. And that metallic tang of blood, so thick you can taste it, even as you slip and slide in the mud and gore. If that sounds like your kind of day, prepare for a rude awakening. Because you, my friend, wouldn't last 30 seconds on a medieval battlefield. You think you know knights, castles, and kings? You've binged every show, read every book, picturing valiant heroes in shining armor, ready for glory. But what if I told you the true horror wasn't always the enemy's blade, but the journey there? Imagine days, even weeks, of relentless marching, your body a symphony of aches and hunger, the biting wind or scorching sun, your constant companion. You haven't even seen the main enemy, but already you're fighting for your life against dysentery, starvation, and the gnawing fatigue that eats at your soul. Take 1,471 during the Wars of the Roses. 2 major battles, Barnet and Tewkesbury, just 3 weeks apart. 3 weeks. Not enough time to bury your dead, heal your wounds, or even properly mourn the fallen. And in 1346, amidst the 100 Years' War, 5 battles and an almost year-long siege at Calais, Blanchetaque and Crécy, just 2 days separating them, 2 days to recover, to mentally brace yourself for another dance with death. That's not heroism, that's sheer, brutal endurance. Now, let's talk about the noise. Oh, the glorious cinematic noise of trumpets heralding the charge. Forget it. The hornblower was usually way back with the commanders. The poor foot soldier on the front line? He probably heard nothing but the primal screams of men. His own comrades, the enemy. All a terrifying cacophony designed to break the mind before the body. The 15th century chronicler Thomas Walsingham noted that foot soldiers often advanced by simply copying the guy next to them. No inspiring speeches, no heroic bugles, just the terrifying, instinctual push forward into the unknown. The 14th century poet Christine de Pizan advised commanders to keep the enemy busy with all sorts of assault, so that the sounds, the activity, and the noise will keep their bodies as well as their ears occupied. Arrows thicker than flies, bombards, cannon shots, trumpets, not signals, but instruments of terror. Imagine that sensory overload. Your head ringing, your heart pounding, your mind struggling to process the sheer overwhelming assault on your senses. This wasn't strategy. It was an attempt to shatter the human spirit before the fight even truly began. And the advance itself? No glorious headlong charge. Medieval commanders understood human limits. Their goal was for their tightly packed formations to walk to the enemy, stopping periodically to close ranks, preserving energy for the actual combat. You wouldn't be running towards glory. You'd be trudging towards certain suffering, shoulder to shoulder with men who were just as terrified, just as exhausted. Then, the impact. The moment 2 walls of humanity collide. Axes, spears, maces, daggers, fists, anything and everything becomes a weapon. Swords? They were expensive, required years of training, and were wielded mostly by professional soldiers and nobles. They made up only about a quarter of the weaponry. The rest? Farming implements, sharpened shovels, anything that could kill. You were just as dead from a rusty scythe as a gleaming sword. The psychological pressure was immense. Most soldiers weren't professionally trained. They were just able-bodied men, scooped up on the march. And if both sides held their ground, the fighting could drag on for hours. The Battle of Towton in 1461 lasted 10 hours in the middle of a snowstorm. 10 hours of sheer hell, where survival was a lottery, not a testament to skill. Now, let's talk about the Wall of Death. Battlefield archaeologist Dr. Timothy Sutherland, studying sites like Towton, found something chilling. Almost 40% of frontline skeletons didn't die from weapon wounds. They were trampled to death by their own comrades. In the sheer panic of contact, as men surged forward, those who fell became speed bumps for the living. Imagine, you've survived the hail of arrows, reached the enemy, and then you trip. Or someone pushes you, down you go. The tightly packed ranks behind you, driven by momentum and fear, can't stop. They stumble over you, then others over them, a horrifying cascade of human dominoes. You're suffocating in an inch of mud, unable to move, unable to breathe. Boots, both friend and foe, crush your ribs, shatter your limbs. Your head, kicked like a football, is pressed into the ground. You hear the screams, the groans of pain, but you can't even cry for help. This was the fate of many at the Battle of Visby in 1361. And the head? Oh, it was the prime target. At Towton, out of 28 skulls examined, 27 had head wounds. Helmets were either absent, knocked off, or deliberately removed in the heat and exhaustion. Dr. Kelly Deere, an American medievalist, found that most fatal wounds on French battlefields came from downward strikes to the top of the head or neck. There was no space for grand sword swinging. It was close quarters, brutal, and utterly desperate. Dr. Alan Williams, an armor expert, found that temperatures inside a medieval helmet could reach over 110 degrees Fahrenheit within 20 minutes. French chronicler Jean de Joinville described how several knights died from heat and suffocation inside their own armor at the Battle of Mansoura in 1250. You could be choked by your own protection, dying not from an enemy's blade, but from the unbearable heat and lack of air. And what if you ran? At Towton, many Lancastrians were killed while fleeing, trampled by their own, or drowned in rivers that ran red with blood for days. There was no escape, no easy way out. And after it all, the victorious army returned to Plunder. The wounded, the dead, the enemy camp, nothing went to waste. Weapons, clothing, pins, buckles, bodies were stripped bare. The Bayeux Tapestry, depicting the Battle of Hastings, shows this grim reality. The chronicle Gesta Henrici Quinti describes King Henry V's victory at Agincourt. None of them possessed at our departure any more covering than that which nature had endowed him when first he saw the light. Utterly naked, abandoned. Unless you were a high-ranking noble, there was no dignified burial. You were tossed into a mass grave, your anonymity complete. Thomas Walsingham, writing about the 1402 Battle of Bryn Glas, described an unusual and unprecedented crime. Welsh women mutilating the English dead, cutting off genitalia and sticking them in mouths, noses, in anuses. A horrific, dehumanizing act, demanding ransom even for the right to burial. Chivalry and honor, those were for the songs and poems. Survival on a medieval battlefield wasn't about skill or courage in the romantic sense. There were rarely heroics. It was about luck, raw endurance, and the primal willingness to do absolutely anything to stay alive. So, the next time you picture a shining knight, remember the stench, the noise, the fear, and the sheer brutal struggle for every single breath. This wasn't a game, it was hell on earth, and you wouldn't last 30 seconds.